Howdy, guys, and welcome to night number 60 of the Overnight Feeds recaps for Big Brother Season 24. A good Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon to all of y'all. Hope you're enjoying the middle of your 3-day long Labor Day weekend. House guests certainly had fun yesterday. We had the veto competition, and it was an iconic one. Now, before we talk about it, a little bit of a refresher about what happened prior to the veto competition. We had our HOH competition on Thursday night. It was a puzzle competition, bunch of puzzle pieces running back and forth across the yard to create Burning Man Zingbot. Burning Zingbot, I guess. That was the competition, and the winner of that competition was Michael. Of course it was Michael, right? Yeah, Michael had won HOH. Friday, he put on the block Terrence and Alyssa, with Terrence probably being the target to get sent home for this particular week. We'll see if that changes. And of course, who wins the veto certainly has a big say in whether that changes or not. So the feed shut off around 1:30 or so, 12:30, I think, Big Brother time. They're gone for long, 6-7 hours. They come back around 7 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. We discovered that, first of all, yes, it was BB Comics. And secondly, that the winner of BB Comics is Michael. Yes, I say it every week, every competition. And once again, Michael has won another competition. This now puts Michael as the record holder for the most number of veto victories. I think it ties him with Janelle for the most number of veto and HOH victories combined. There's still one or two more to go, so he could easily break that record. Although, being HOH, it means he can't compete in the next HOH. It's a double eviction night, a live eviction Thursday night. If there was ever a chance that Michael's going to be vulnerable, this is probably the most likely point in time for him to be vulnerable enough that someone else could potentially get him out. So if he doesn't make it past next Thursday, he owns one record. He still has another record with Janelle for HOH and vetoes combined. So this guy is just such a dominant player at these competitions. Is he so incredibly good? Or are the rest of these house guests just so incredibly bad? I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both, but props to this guy. He, as a super fan coming in, the joy that he must feel winning all of these, I can only imagine. So congratulations to him. Gets a little boring from our side to have the same person winning everything over and over again, but hey, you do what you got to do to win the game. He is certainly doing that. So Michael has won the veto. Is he going to change? I don't think he's going to change who he put on the block. He promised Turner safety. I don't know why he would go after Monty at this point. Well, from a gameplay standpoint, there may be some reasons, but I think they'll keep it Terrence and Alyssa. I think Terrence is heading to the jury house. I truly do. So, with that being said, let's talk about the feeds. There were a lot of conversations last night. Now, not a whole lot of gameplay and strategic conversations, but learning as much as I could about these BB comics and what they actually were means I had to listen to all the conversations all that long. It made for a long night, and these house guests would not go to sleep. So there were certainly a lot of conversations, one or two that are important to talk about, a lot more, a little more trivial, but we'll throw those out as well. So let's talk about the actual BB competition itself. Now, first of all, I am a little surprised that they had this veto competition yesterday, because they saw Zingbot. They came out in the backyard. They saw Zingbot up on the balcony on Friday. I didn't think they'd have enough time to get this pretty big set put together in time for the veto competition. But they must have worked all night long. I know during our season, we heard construction going on forever for the week that we did BB Comics. They went a little faster. They got it done. They had it. The other reason I didn't think they necessarily would have BB Comics this week was because there's still 7 people left in the house, which means there is one poor person that did not get to compete in such an iconic competition such as BB Comics. During my season, it was during Final 5, so we all got to compete. Not this year. And the unlucky person who did not get to compete was Turner. Yeah, Turner didn't get picked to play, and Turner probably would have been very good at this. There's been talk before about how incredible his memory is. Because remember, this competition, it's physical in that you have to go down a zip line while you're looking at 16, or in this case 15 different comics to see what order they are lined up in. You then get to the end of the zip line. You have to go pick these comics out, set them up in the same order, but you have 2 of each comic, with a very small difference between them. So you not only have to know which comic goes where, but you have to know which of these two comics matches exactly to the one that you saw while you're on the zip line. So there is a physical component, but there's also a pretty important memory component of knowing what the differences are. Turner may have done well at it. He didn't get the chance. Not only did he not get to compete, he didn't even get a costume. He stayed locked up in the HOH room all afternoon while everyone else got to compete. So I'm feeling for Turner. It's a shame he didn't get to compete, but he did not. And speaking of Turner not competing, a little bit of a question. Apparently at the earlier Veto draw yesterday morning, Terrence pulled the house guest choice chip, so he got to pick whoever was left to compete in the competition. And apparently he picked Taylor to compete instead of Turner. Surprises me. Why? I don't really get it. There was a conversation that took place a little bit later in the evening between Brittany and Turner where they talked about it. So we'll cover at that point in time. But yeah, Terrence had the opportunity to pull Turner in and let Taylor not play. He chose not to do that. He picked Taylor instead. And so we'll see how that worked out. All right, the comp itself. First of all, not only did Michael win, but not a huge surprise, Michael also set an all-time across all seasons record for the speed at which he solved this puzzle. He solved it in 9 minutes and 2 seconds, which beat the old record held by Nicole Anthony from my season, which he used to pull me off the block. She was about a minute and a half less or longer than Michael was, so he has beat her record. But let me say this. When we did our competition, there were 16 comics you had to sort. Yesterday, they only had to do 15. Paloma self-evicted. Since she self-evicted, she did not get a comic. So instead of 16, this group only had 15. So I'm going to maintain that Michael has the record for BB Comics involving 15 comics, but Nicole Anthony still holds the overall record for a regular 16 unit type season. I'm standing by that. But he did win. And records don't really matter that much. More importantly, that he does have the power. All right, now apparently Taylor came in second. No one timed out, so everyone apparently did pretty well. Lots of scores in the 11 to 12 minute range. Apparently Brittany and Alyssa were within 2 seconds of each other. So everyone was within a couple of minutes of each other. Monty said they were all within a minute or so. So it was a close competition. They all got to wear ice vests, which sounds amazing and incredible. It was so hot during our season, some of these events. Maybe they learned from us because they were wearing ice vests to keep them cool down during a slightly longer competition such as this. Yeah, I wish we'd had that during my season. All right, so let's talk about the comics itself because that was really the main thing last night. Is what were these comics? I was really surprised. I was scouring social media. I delayed recording this just a little bit thinking, oh, maybe they'll post them online somewhere. I haven't seen them anywhere, so I have not seen the actual pictures. All the descriptions are based strictly on what the house guests themselves were talking about throughout the entire evening, but did the best I could to figure out what each of these comics were. So let's go ahead and start and talk about them. First of all, Pooch. Now remember, Paloma didn't get comics since she's self-evicted, so 15 of them. First one, Pooch. Pooch apparently was just the name Pooch, nothing else, just Pooch. And it sounds like maybe it was a picture of a dog with Pooch's face on it. Kind of makes sense, right? Yeah, is anyone surprised at that? Now, so Pooch the dog was the first one. Nicole, Amira, we'll do Amira's first. Amira was apparently Abira instead of Amira. Get it? Yeah, a little play on words there. Something to do with beer. I'm not sure. I want to see the picture on this. But Amira was Abira. Nicole was something that was chef related. She was some kind of chef. They talked about that she had scary eyes, so I don't know if it's scary chef or something like that. But I don't know. I guess they tried to capture Nicole's personality at times with the crazy scary eyes, everything, and the chef and all of that. So she did that. Daniel, I'm amazed I haven't heard more about it. Did they have Daniel as the Elvis impersonator, as the yeller or something? I don't know. The only thing I've heard from Daniels is someone said something about EI, no. Don't know what that means. It makes me think of farmers and all that, and I don't really think Daniel is a farmer, so we'll have to find out on that one. Joseph, they were all saying, oh, we expected to see food all around him and all that and big muscles. Well, they got half of that. Joseph apparently had his shirt torn into shreds, kind of flexing with muscles and all of that. I think a lot of these house guests are going to like their comics. One or two, maybe not so much. But yeah, they said Joseph was definitely showing little muscles and flexing and everything else in his. Indy was the Brazilian waxer. Sounds dangerous, right? Yeah, I'm not surprised they went back to her Brazilian roots. I don't know if they had her dressed as a samba dancer, carnival dancer, whatever, but she was the Brazilian waxer. I mentioned Joseph with his muscles. Jasmine. Okay, now this one sounds pretty appropriate. There was a lot of stuff they could pick from Jasmine, right? Well, Jasmine's BB comic was the Sprainiac. Yeah, there you go. The Sprainiac, and apparently something to do with a muffin as well in her comic. Terrence mentioned at one point there maybe was some kind of tagline that said, "One bite and she's ready to fight." So yeah, and they also talked about that Jasmine looked really good in this comic, that they felt like she really was going to enjoy the way they did hers. I think she will. Again, I think most people will enjoy it. One or two people, not so much. Speaking of, who may not quite appreciate it as much as others, Kyle's apparently, the description was the reptile dysfunction. I don't know what that means. I'll let y'all make y'all's own opinion about where that could possibly tie into. What could rhyme with reptile dysfunction? I don't know. Again, who knows how that one works out? But that apparently was Kyle's reptile dysfunction. Terrence's was DJ Snowtime, and Terrence seems like he really liked his. Thought that was pretty cool. Alyssa's was Mall-Lissa, as in shopping mall. Mall-Lissa, apparently she's punching guys in the face with shopping bags, swinging them around, and she was kind of a little, not taken aback, but she was a little curious. She said, I don't talk about malls and all that. Why did they have that with me? I'm not real sure either, but it's Alyssa at the shopping mall, swinging her bags, taking out people and all of that. Monty's was Monty Twisto, and apparently it's something about past players. Several times there was mention about calling out a special power of his, and Monty saying, I don't have a special power, so I don't know why they call that out. And he said, even if I did have one, why would they call it out? That makes no sense whatsoever. And everyone's laughing, saying, yeah, you just haven't used your special power yet, Monty, right? So, yeah, I'm not sure what they were referencing with that one, but Monte Twisto. Turner's was another that sounds like it was a really good one. Turner's was titled Rug of War, and apparently had him with a rug gun of some sort, spitting out rugs, maybe at evil people or something like that. So they all thought that was pretty good. He's also shirtless. Apparently, Turner is the only one who's completely shirtless. And Turner said, yeah, I may have sent in one or two pics when I first was trying out that showed me in my little earlier days when I was in even better shape, or when I was in good shape and all that. He said, I may have sent one or two of those in. So maybe they went off that a little bit, because apparently he was flexed up and looking pretty good as well. He is laughing. He said, I love everything about this comic except for my face. He said, it looks all dirty. He said, did they just tell the artist, say, yeah, make his face really decrepit looking? And they're all off laughing about that. Monty is saying, yeah, you look like some back alley drug dealer. And so they're not real. They're kind of laughing about the way he was portrayed. But theme wise and all that, he loves it. He got the rug as part of his comic. All right, we've got Turner. Taylor's in it. How did they not talk about Taylor's? I really have not heard Taylor's discussed at all, except from Taylor herself, who said that she really liked it, that they got her posture correct, that her legs were crossed just the way she always does, that they really did a good job of portraying her. But I don't know what the theme was, and I never heard it mentioned. So I'm a little curious about that. We'll see what hers was. So the last two, Michael and Brittany. So first of all, Michael, the copycat. The guy who gets pictures of his cats every time he wins HOH. That makes sense, right? Yeah, the copycat, but apparently he was portrayed as a bit of a mad scientist, had cats on his comic as well. He was very happy to see that, and it seems entirely appropriate to me. Followed up by Brittany, and Brittany's was not Brittany. Her comic was Brit Flea, right? Brittany, Brit Flea, yeah, we get it. Apparently, she's not doing anything except in the middle of the picture with the flea body and Brittany's face and like ants carrying grains of salt around her or something like that. And the tagline on it says, head itch in charge. So she's talking about it. Everyone's talking about it. She said, I don't get it. She said, do I itch more than I thought I did? Or do people think of me as just a crazy little flea person or something? She's not certain. No one else is certain as either, or at least they're not telling her. And I was thinking about it. The only thing I think is the fact that Michael and Brittany have a very tight relationship in the house, correct? Michael was portrayed as a cat. Brittany's portrayed as a flea. Well, think about cats and flea relationships in the real world and how fleas just kind of attach themselves to cats and go where the cats will go and all that. Maybe there's something to do with that. I don't know. We'll find out more as we go along, but it certainly seems like the producers had fun with a few of these and maybe making a few implications and things like that. So there you have it. 15 comics. Some of them great, some of them, and some of them we're still waiting to find out about. All right. As we get to the actual feeds after the competition, everyone's come back in. They're all sitting around the table eating pizzas, talking about the competition. They're talking about finale night being on September 28th. They're starting to see that light at the end of the tunnel. They're also, though, reminiscing about earlier in the season. They're talking about the very first night they were in this house, how difficult it was, how everyone was following everyone else around, that they all knew that alliances form on night number one, so no one wanted to leave anyone alone. No one wanted to just have two people talking because of that. Monty's saying if he has any suggestions for future season house guests, he's going to tell them sleep all day the day before you go into the house because you're going to be up all night long following people, make sure that nothing is going on. He's kind of right. It's a busy first night. So they're talking about that. They're talking about where they've lived in the past, if there's ever any chance that they may have crossed paths with each other, even if they didn't realize it. Apparently, Brittany and Daniel lived in the same apartment complex in Los Angeles at one point in time. But Brittany's saying, yeah, it's like a 2,000 unit. So, we didn't run across each other. It was a huge complex, but they lived right there in the same place with each other. There's talk about America's favorite player. They're wondering if anyone pre-jury has ever won America's favorite player. I don't think so. And they're all thinking that probably the longer you last in this game, the more likely it is that you could be the person picked for America's favorite house guest. There's a few people in this house that have got to be thinking that they've got a pretty decent chance of getting that title. And so they're thinking about that as well. You can't sound too cocky by actually throwing it out there, but I know some of them are thinking about it. And so the topic of America's favorite player certainly did come up during these conversations. They're talking a little bit, again, reminiscing. They're talking about Muffingate with Jasmine. They're laughing about Jasmine was so serious about it. She was playing detective at one point, trying to hide under the sofa. And Monty's saying she's laying right there. I could see her, but she thought she was hiding. And so they think that was pretty funny. They're also talking more non-game, non-strategic talk. They're talking about going to the gym. I just thought it's funny the way different people do this. Alyssa says she goes there for about 2 hours. She works out for an hour and a half. And then she spends half an hour taking pictures afterwards of her and her workouts and all of that. Monty says, yeah, I don't take pictures like that. I just do training videos since he's a trainer and all that. So he records his training videos. Terrence said, I'm not a gym person. He said, my wife got a gym membership that gave me free access. He said, I went down there, signed up one time, looked around, said, nah, walk out the door. I feel you, Terrence. I understand completely. But they're all laughing about different workouts that you can do while you're gym, things like that. At this point, we get Terrence talking about kind of a long, drawn-out story. Terrence is talking about a story that he came up with while he was driving a bus, and that he actually wrote all of it, part of it, I'm not real sure, but something about a family moving to a new town, that they don't like balloons, that there's a creepy person in the bar as well. It's kind of the villain and all that. Kind of unique little story that he's talking about. A little too much for Turner and Alyssa and Brittany, who towards the end of this thing said, yeah, they just kind of get up and leave the dining area, head into the back bedrooms instead. So let's talk about that. We've got Alyssa and Brittany talking in the golf bedroom together. Brittany is assuring Alyssa, saying, look, I've talked to everyone. I think they're being honest with me when they say that you're staying, that Terrence is going to go home. She's saying, I don't think Michael probably uses a veto, but you're going to win out over Terrence, Alyssa. You're good, which obviously makes Alyssa very happy to hear. Alyssa is talking about wanting to do something in this game to bring value to her game, to the house in general. She's saying, I don't want to be this season's Big D. Well, you got a few more competitions, Alyssa. You may only have one or two more competitions. So it better happen pretty quick if you need to win one. It could be one of these doubles. It's certainly a possibility. She wants to win something, though, to prove that she has some value to be in this house. She wants to, but then she's saying if she does win something, though, then she needs to figure out who she can trust and how to move forward in the game. And she's telling Brittany, I trust you completely. Michael, I want to trust. I kind of trust, but you're the one I 100% trust. And I just need to figure out what to do. She is talking about different competitions. She's saying if this is a competition where you hold on to ropes and you spin, anything like that, she says, I'll risk my life. I'll do whatever it takes to win this competition. It's probably not going to be that one since we know it's a double and that takes too long. It'll be a live, very quick HOH competition. But she's saying she'll do whatever it takes to win. Now, we also have Alyssa talking about other people in the house. She's saying Monty or Turner, that she really thinks either one of them would take a shot at Michael if they had the chance. In other words, a little bit of an implication, a subtle suggestion to Brittany that, hey, these guys are both threats against Michael and therefore against you. So if you ever thought about pulling me off the block and backsiding one of them, maybe a good idea, right? Hint, hint, hint. She doesn't say that, but it just seems like that's a little bit of the under the radar suggestion, a little subtle hint that these guys are gunning for y'all. So obviously they're more danger to y'all than me, little old Alyssa, would ever be. So keep your focus on them instead. Brittany is talking. Brittany's been downplaying her relationship to Michael for the last few days, for the last week or two. Really playing it down, saying, oh, yeah, she's done it to Taylor a lot, and she's done it to Alyssa as well. Really acting as though she does not want to go to a final two with Michael, anyone else, kind of thing. And she's telling Alyssa, saying, look, it would be so crazy to have a final three composed of all women. And so herself and Taylor and Alyssa's what she's talking about. And Alyssa's certainly buying that, enjoying hearing that, saying, oh, absolutely, that'd be fantastic. So that's what Brittany's kind of throwing out there. Alyssa also is talking about saying, look, it's not enough just for me to win. She said, I really feel like I need to know what I'm going to do with that win beforehand so I can present some plans to say Michael or to whoever of what I could do to give them value in this game. So she's recognizing that she needs to convince some people why she needs to stay in the house beyond just I'm less a target than someone else. She wants to actually be more proactive in the game. We'll see what she comes up with. But they talk about that. Eventually, talk turns to Kyle a little bit. Alyssa saying how Kyle is tough. Kyle was crying in her back and everything as he walked out the door. And Brittany passes on a message that Kyle had for her, saying he loved how empathetic she was, I think. So a little Kyle talk. Talk then turns to Joseph. What an incredible social game he had while he played this game. Wondering how he's doing in the jury house, some things like that. All right, we've got Taylor in the diary room talking. Those diary room sessions after BB Comics can be long. So she's still in the diary room. The guys are all playing Chinese checkers in the dining area. Eventually, we get everyone in the golf and car bedrooms, kind of just talking across the hallways and all that. They notice an ant on Brittany's pillow, and the conversation immediately turns to food. They're talking about they found where Jasmine was hiding some potato chips in the storage room. There's talk about Daniel cooking eggs in the microwave. Alyssa called him out on it, said it made a really foul smell. She couldn't stand that. And we find out that Michael hates hard-boiled eggs. He would have hated being in the house my season when Sis had to dress up like a chicken, cook eggs every hour or so. He would not have enjoyed that. But Michael hates hard-boiled eggs. Turner doesn't like baked potatoes or mashed potatoes, but he likes tater tots. So get a little food preferences from all of these house guests. We finally get Taylor out of the diary room after 3 hours. I said they're long after BB Comics. I remember my season when you got pulled in the diary room, you were asked about every single comic you saw. How did you think that was appropriate? Did it make you laugh? What did you think about it? Do you have any silly things to say about it? They really spent a lot of time on every one of those 16 comics. So you spend forever in there doing these reviews. And it sounds like Taylor just got through with an endurance session of diary rooms talking about those comics. Eventually, we got Turner and Taylor and Brittany. They're talking about school dances, school spirit, etc. Eventually, they talk about Jasmine saying how much she would have hated this comp. She's scared of heights with her sprained ankle as well. She just would not have enjoyed this particular competition. They're laughing about the fact when she did the wall competition, she only dropped off the wall as soon as she found out that the first few people off would not be have-nots. That if they'd been have-nots, she probably would have tried to stay up a little bit longer. So they're talking about that. We've got Michael and Brittany talking, whispering. Very, very good whispering. It's hard to follow some of this, but Michael and Brittany whispering with each other in the kitchen around the island. Brittany is saying that she doesn't really get her Brit Flea comic. She hopes that America doesn't think that she's just some crazy flea. She's also passing on her conversation with Alyssa to Michael, saying Alyssa really wants a final three of just girls. think Brittany brought that up, but whatever. She's mentioning that. She's also saying Alyssa would really like to have a Final Four with Brittany and Michael, Taylor, and herself. So we'll see if they protect Alyssa a little bit longer just because of that. But she's also saying that Alyssa really suggesting that she wants Monty out next if they get the opportunity. So Michael probably likes hearing all of that, except the final three for the girls. All right, we've got talk about a double eviction. Brittany saying, look, if it's a double, I win HOH. You can't compete if I win it. Who should I put up? Michael saying, well, probably Turner and Monty would be our logical choices, and then probably take out Turner as the best move. And I can see them wanting that, especially because Monty kind of thinks he's a Final Four, or at least they think that Monty thinks he's a Final Four with him. So Turner would be the next after Terrence if they had their way. Brittany's worried, and I think it's a valid concern. She's worried that if someone else wins HOH, that they'll put up Brittany and Michael side by side. If Michael then wins Veto, as he often does, he'll pull himself off the block. Someone else will go up in his place, and they'll then vote out Brittany instead. So she's worried about that, and I think that's valid. Michael's saying, do you think the votes would be there to vote you out if something like that happened? It probably comes down to Taylor more than anyone else. Would they vote Brittany out? It depends on who's on the block next to her. If Taylor's up there next to Brittany, they probably do vote Brittany out. Taylor can't vote to support Brittany, etc. If it's someone else, if it's a Turner, for example, you may have Taylor and I don't know. You may have the votes to actually save Brittany at that point in time. So it's really going to depend not just who's on the block, but who else is casting votes next week to see something like that happen. Eventually, Alyssa gets out of the diary room after about an hour and a half or so. We've got the group talking about what they would want to do with their money if they won the competition, wondering if the pre-jury will watch this season since they went out so early, not sure if they're really going to be involved with it or not. Eventually, the group moves on to the bathroom. Everyone but Brittany and Alyssa was in there. They're giving goodnight messages, but the feeds cut away. Doesn't matter because the conversation continues anyway. Eventually, we get everyone in bed except for Brittany and Turner, who stay in the bathroom. Continue more game conversation, strategic conversation at this point, is worth staying up for, I guess. Brittany's asking who Turner thinks he can sit next to in a final two and still win. And he's not really answering. He's saying, I don't know. Everyone could win this thing. Brittany is saying that she thinks that she can't beat many, if anyone at all, in this house. That she's saying, look, I'm too closely attached to someone else playing this game who's done really well. And if I'm next to this other person, there's no way I can win this thing. I don't think I can win against anyone else either. Well, we know she's talking about Michael, and Turner's saying the same thing. He's saying, well, no one can beat him if it's a final two against him. He says, we're all just playing for second, third, and fourth place at this point in time. So they're not throwing out Michael's name, but they're both suggesting that Michael is the biggest threat in the house. He is. And Brittany very much suggesting that she doesn't want to be too close to him. Not sure that's necessarily the case. But Brittany is certainly, now here's the thing. Brittany is going on and on about how she can't beat anyone in this house. The idea is to convince Turner that why would he possibly want to get rid of her next week, because she's so vulnerable. She's not a threat to beat anyone in a final two. So don't pay attention to me. Go after Monty or someone else, Turner, because you'll beat me easy if you get to the final two. That's what she's implying as she has this conversation. Turner's kind of agreeing and saying the same kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't think I can beat anyone. So yeah, I'm in the same boat that you are, Brittany. Don't send me home either, because we're both in the same boat. Brittany does mention the fact that, or eventually there's talk about, well, it's a couple of things. She's implying that Turner really shouldn't cut her loose, as I mentioned. Eventually the talk turns to this pick earlier in the day where Terrence picked Taylor over Turner to compete in the veto competition. What possibly could have been going through his mind? They're kind of laughing about it, saying, yeah, I don't know what he was thinking when he did that. But eventually they start thinking that maybe it's a fact that Terrence thought he had a better chance of beating Taylor than Turner in the competition. And we know that Terrence knew he had to win this thing in order to stay alive. So he was trying to make his odds as good as possible to actually win the veto itself. Probably wasn't trusting that Turner would actually use the veto even if he won it. So they're thinking he just thought he had a little bit better chance against Taylor than Turner at the end of the thing. Doesn't matter because Michael won anyway, so it's a moot point at this time. But they talk about that a little bit. All right, so eventually to wrap up this conversation, Turner's saying he won't evict Brittany from the house. He said, I didn't do it last time. I'm not going to do it this time. And she's thanking him and kind of implying that she wouldn't send him out either. Although I don't remember that she ever promised it. Turner's saying that Alyssa hasn't approached him, and Brittany is surprised, saying, well, she approached me. I'm amazed that she didn't approach you. And he said, no, she hadn't had any conversations with me. Again, we've got we've got Brittany trying to suggest to Turner, or imply to Turner, that maybe he's not as tight with the other people in this house as he thinks. What, Alyssa didn't talk to you? She talked to me, trying to drive a little bit of a wedge between the two in case there's a Brittany versus Alyssa vote next week, something like that, that maybe she'd get Turner over to her side. Because she's saying, yeah, Alyssa talked to me. I'm amazed she didn't talk to you. Brittany's also telling Turner that, hey, you and I, we may need to save each other and protect each other just out of necessity. We're kind of the two low people on this poll, and maybe we need to be watching out for each other because maybe no one else is so much. And Turner's saying, yeah, absolutely, I agree with that. I don't know if either one of them actually believes what they're telling each other at this point in time. They're both playing the game, but they're continuing conversation. Turner is talking about Monty, saying, look, I trust Monty as much as I can, anyone in this house, to do good by me. And Brittany's saying, well, maybe, but Taylor's tighter, I think, with Monty than Monty is with you. It's just my impression, my thought. Again, she's trying to make sure that Turner doesn't feel like he's got any connections more important than whatever she's trying to create with him right now. And then finally, lots of scenarios about what could happen based on who wins HOH, who wins Veto this next week, playing it out every single way they could. We're not going to cover it tonight. It doesn't really matter until we know who wins this next HOH and Veto. And then it'll be a live double eviction. So it'll happen so fast, it won't matter. We'll find out at that point in time. So there you have it, guys. They called it a night about 6 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. It was like the rest of the house guests were up till 5. They called it quits about 6 o'clock or so in the morning. So it was a long night of listening, trying to figure out what these comics were. I imagine they'll get to sleep late today. I don't know how much conversation we'll have this evening. We'll find out. But really, until we have the veto ceremony on Monday, everything's just going to kind of stagnate. Everyone's going to enjoy the backyard while they can. But in summary, Michael's got the veto. I don't expect him to change it. Terrence is probably going home. Everyone's starting to position themselves for the weeks going forward. We're very much in the end game. They're picturing their final 2 speeches, who they want to sit with, who's going to maybe vote for them for America's favorite house guest. All those kind of conversations are starting to take place. So it's going to be a fun last couple of weeks. We'll see what happens. Guys, y'all have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. I will be back tomorrow morning to give you the updates on any other conversations that take place. Maybe we'll know a little bit more about BB Comics as well. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.